There's a certain feeling, a feeling women crave, not because they're needy or dramatic, but because this feeling tells her everything she needs to know about you and herself. It's not about flowers. It's not about money. It's not even about the compliments. It's about safety. Not just physical safety, though that's important too. I'm talking about emotional safety. The kind of safety where she can breathe around you, where she doesn't have to second guess your intentions, wonder if she's too much, or shrink herself to fit into your world. Women crave emotional safety, not because they're fragile, but because they're human. Emotional safety is not a luxury for women, it's a foundation. It's what allows them to trust, to love deeply, to show up authentically without fear of being judged, dismissed, or manipulated. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she can breathe. And that breath is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, even spiritual. It's the freedom to be fully herself without having to carry the heavy armor of protection that she's worn in so many places. See, for many women, the world outside is already a battlefield. She has to compete, prove herself, deal with expectations, silence, rejection, and sometimes trauma. So when she steps into a relationship, any relationship, romantic or otherwise, what she's really looking for is not perfection, not fairy tale romance, but refuge. A place, a person, a presence that says, you're safe here. You don't have to perform. You don't have to pretend. Emotional safety means she can express how she feels without it being turned against her later. It means she won't be labeled too sensitive just because she's honest. It means she doesn't have to walk on eggshells, worrying about how you'll react if she brings up something difficult. It's the freedom to speak, to question, to cry, to laugh without wondering, will this push him away? It's the deep relief of knowing that she doesn't have to tone herself down to be loved. When a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe, she shuts down. Sometimes slowly, sometimes silently. She becomes quieter, not because she's content, but because it's safer to be silent than to speak and be misunderstood. She withholds pieces of herself, not out of manipulation, but out of self-preservation. She doesn't show you her full self because the space doesn't feel secure enough to hold it. And that's when relationships start to unravel, not because there's no love, but because there's no safety to let that love grow. On the other hand, when she does feel safe emotionally, everything changes. She becomes more open, more generous, more joyful. Her laughter is louder, her vulnerability deepens. She gives more of herself, not because she has to, but because she wants to. Emotional safety unlocks a woman's softness. And that softness isn't weakness, it's her power. It's the part of her that nurtures, connects, and heals. And it's only accessible when she's not in survival mode. Here's what emotional safety actually looks like in real life. It's listening without interrupting. It's validating her feelings even if you don't fully understand them. It's staying calm when she expresses frustration instead of getting defensive. It's apologizing when you're wrong, not to end the argument, but because you care about how she feels. It's asking her what she needs instead of assuming. It's being consistent, clear, and dependable, not just when things are easy, but especially when they're not. You see, it's easy to give love when things are going well, but emotional safety is built in the hard moments. When you make space for her feelings, even when it's inconvenient. When you reassure her instead of making her feel crazy for needing reassurance. When you see her not as dramatic, but as someone who wants to feel secure in something that matters to her. Every woman may not use the words emotional safety to describe what she's seeking, but that's what she's hoping to find. It's what's behind her desire for deep conversations. It's what fuels her need for honesty. It's what she's reaching for when she asks if something is wrong, even if you said everything's fine. She's not being annoying. She's just trying to protect a connection that matters to her. And when you make her feel safe emotionally, she'll stop asking those questions. Not because she stopped caring, but because now she's sure she doesn't have to wonder anymore. If you want to love a woman deeply, give her that feeling. Let her know that her heart is safe in your hands, that her flaws won't be used as weapons, that her silence won't be mistaken for apathy, that her truth matters even when it's messy. Give her safety, and she'll give you everything else without being asked. Not because she's obligated, but because now she can. Emotional safety equals feeling seen, heard, and respected. It's not just about being in someone's presence. It's about being fully acknowledged while you're there. For many women, relationships lose their warmth not because love disappears, but because they stop feeling truly recognized in the space. She can sit next to someone every day, share meals, conversations, and even a bed, but if she doesn't feel seen, heard, and respected, she begins to feel invisible. Emotional safety isn't about avoiding conflict or never arguing. It's about knowing that even in disagreement, her voice won't be shut down, her emotions won't be dismissed, and her identity won't be overlooked. To be seen is to have someone pay attention to who you really are, not just how you look or what you offer, but how you feel, what you value, what you're carrying inside, even when you don't say it out loud. Women long to be seen beyond the surface, beyond the smile they wear in public or the roles they play. They want someone to notice the little shifts in their mood, the exhaustion they try to hide, the unspoken hope in their eye. When she feels seen, she feels valued. When she's overlooked, even by someone close, it can feel like erasure. To be heard is to speak and know that what you're saying matters, not just being nodded at, not just being tolerated, but truly listened to. When a woman says something vulnerable, and you don't brush past it. When she expresses worry or joy and you lean in instead of changing the subject, she notices. She notices when you pause, when you ask thoughtful questions, when you don't just wait for your turn to speak, but actually take in her words. Hearing her doesn't always mean solving her problems. Sometimes it simply means being quiet long enough to let her speak freely, without rushing to fix, correct, or defend. That space alone can be healing. Respect is the anchor of emotional safety. It's the difference between reacting to her feelings with contempt or with curiosity. It's shown when you disagree without belittling her, when you hold her boundaries, even when they inconvenience you. Respect is about honoring her personhood, her thoughts, her time, her experiences. It's refusing to make jokes out of things that matter to her, refusing to weaponize her past mistakes, and refusing to treat her vulnerability as weakness. When a woman feels respected, she can relax. She doesn't have to brace herself for ridicule, manipulation, or silent punishment. These three, being seen, being heard, being respected, are deeply intertwined. You can't offer emotional safety without all three. You might hear her words, but if you don't see what those words mean to her, she'll still feel missed. You might respect her intelligence, but if you don't listen to her heart, she'll still feel alone. Emotional safety is the full package. It's the feeling of knowing I can show up as myself here and I won't be shamed for it. Many women have learned to adapt in spaces where they don't feel these things. They've learned to quiet themselves, to smile through disrespect, to water down their thoughts, to avoid being called too much. But adaptation is not fulfillment. A woman can survive in a space where she's not seen, heard, or respected, but she won't thrive. She won't offer the deepest parts of herself, not because she's withholding out of spite, but because she's protecting the parts that were never welcomed. When she finds that safety, though, she changes. She becomes softer, not because someone changed her, but because she no longer has to guard herself so tightly. She shares more, laughs more, loves more. She lets down walls because there's no longer a need to protect herself from someone who's proven they care deeply about how she feels, not just what she does. If you want to build that kind of connection with a woman, remember this. It's not just about the big things. It's in the way you pay attention when she talks. It's in how you respond to her fears. It's in whether you remember what she said last week or whether you dismiss her emotions because they make you uncomfortable. These moments, small as they seem, are where emotional safety is born. And when you give that to her, truly give it, she'll return it with a kind of love that's not loud, not boastful, but solid, deep, and lasting. Because feeling seen, heard, and respected isn't just what she wants, it's what she needs to stay. Understanding matters more than agreeing. This simple truth is often missed in relationships, especially when emotions are high or opinions clash. Many people think that in order to have harmony, you must see eye to eye on everything, that agreement is the proof of love, or that agreeing means you support and validate someone. But the reality is, you don't have to agree with someone's every thought, choice, or perspective to make them feel supported. What matters more, what creates emotional safety and deep connection, is the willingness to understand. When a woman opens up about how she feels, what she needs most in that moment is not your approval, it's not your judgment, and it's certainly not your argument. She needs to know you care enough to understand her side, even if it's different from yours. Understanding is about curiosity. It's about setting your ego aside long enough to ask, what's really going on inside her? It's not about trying to win the debate. It's about caring enough to explore her inner world, even if it doesn't match your own. When you focus on understanding, you shift your attention from who's right to what's real for her. You listen, not to respond, but to absorb. You ask questions that aren't loaded or sarcastic, but open and sincere. You validate her feelings, not necessarily because you feel the same way, but because they're real to her. That's the difference between connection and conflict. You can agree with someone and still not make them feel seen. You can nod your head but never really hear them. But when you seek to understand, even if you don't end up agreeing, you send a powerful message. I care enough to try. It's in these moments that trust is built. When a woman sees that you're not trying to change her mind every time she speaks, she starts to feel emotionally safe with you. She feels she can be herself without being corrected. She can be vulnerable without being exposed. And ironically, the more she feels understood, the more open she becomes, even to your perspective. That's the irony. Understanding leads to openness, but constant disagreement in the name of logic often builds walls. Too many people get caught up in needing to be right. They respond to emotions with logic, to fears with statistics, and to personal stories with rebuttals. They treat conversations like competitions where someone has to win and the other has to lose. But in healthy relationships, there is no scoreboard. The goal isn't to win, it's to connect. And connection is never built on the back of argument. It's built on empathy. Understanding doesn't mean you lose yourself. It doesn't mean you have to pretend to agree when you don't. It means you pause long enough to say, I see where you're coming from. I may not feel the same way, but I get why you do. That one sentence can change the tone of a whole conversation. It's the difference between shutting someone down and holding space for them. It's saying your reality matters, even if it's different from mine. When a woman feels that you're genuinely trying to understand her, she relaxes. Her guard comes down. She starts to trust that this is someone she can talk to, not just someone she has to tiptoe around. And when there's trust, everything flows better. Even the hard conversations become easier because she knows you're not trying to control her, you're trying to connect. We live in a world that constantly pressures people to pick sides, take positions, and argue their point. But in real relationships, especially with someone you care about, what's often needed most is the quiet strength to listen and understand without needing to fix or convince. Sometimes it's not about who's right, it's about who's present. And presence grounded in understanding is what keeps a relationship alive. So the next time you find yourself not agreeing with the woman in your life, ask yourself, do I need to be right or do I want to be close? Because the need to be right often pushes love away. But the choice to understand, even when you disagree, brings hearts closer together. That's where real connection begins. Emotional safety creates freedom in a way that nothing else can. It unlocks a level of openness, trust, and authenticity that cannot exist in an environment filled with tension, judgment, or fear. When someone, especially a woman, feels emotionally safe, she doesn't just relax, she becomes more of herself. She sheds the layers of self-protection she's learned to wear over time, not because she no longer needs them universally, but because she finally feels like she doesn't need them with you. And that's powerful. This kind of freedom is not loud. It's not about being wild or reckless. It's not the absence of responsibility or boundaries. Instead, it's the quiet confidence of knowing you can be fully present in a relationship without fear of punishment, rejection, or emotional abandonment. Emotional safety makes it possible for her to say what's on her mind without worrying it will be used against her. She can ask questions without feeling like she's being too much. She can say no without feeling guilty and yes without feeling manipulated. In emotionally unsafe environments, women often censor themselves. They hold back parts of their personalities. They overthink their words, trying to guess what version of themselves will be accepted. They go quiet, not because they don't have thoughts or feelings, but because they've learned that expressing them leads to conflict, gaslighting, or emotional shutdown. That's not freedom, that's survival. And no one thrives in survival mode for long. They might stay, they might comply, they might keep the peace, but they will never flourish. When emotional safety is present, a woman's world begins to expand. Her conversations become richer because she knows she can speak without being silenced. Her ideas grow bolder because she's not afraid of ridicule. Her emotional expression becomes more honest, not exaggerated, not dramatic, just real. She's no longer performing or pretending. She's no longer calculating how much of herself she's allowed to reveal. She's just being. That's what freedom looks like. This kind of freedom also brings out her softest side. Not the performative softness that's expected or demanded, but the natural tenderness that arises when someone feels protected. She becomes more affectionate, more nurturing, more open to giving and receiving love. That kind of softness is a gift, but it only comes out when she knows she won't be punished for being vulnerable. The walls come down, not because someone forced them to, but because someone created a space where she wanted to let them fall. Emotional safety also allows for growth, not just personal growth, but growth within the relationship. It gives her the freedom to express when something isn't working without fearing that the entire relationship will collapse. She can say, "This hurt me," without fearing retaliation. She can offer feedback, make suggestions, voice her unmet needs, and instead of being shut down, she's invited into a deeper dialogue. That is the freedom to evolve together rather than walking on eggshells or silently building resentment. It's easy to say you want a woman who is honest, loving, loyal, and expressive, but those qualities don't show up in a vacuum. They show up in environments where emotional safety exists. If she feels judged every time she's emotional, she'll stop sharing. If she's mocked every time she's excited, she'll stop celebrating. If she's ignored every time she's hurt, she'll stop trusting. The freedom to be herself isn't just a nice idea, it's a requirement for real, lasting connection. When emotional safety is missing, you may still get her presence, but not her essence. You may hear her words, but not her truth. You may see her body, but not her soul. But when it's there, when she feels safe, you get all of her, the whole, unfiltered, intuitive, loving, powerful version of her that doesn't just want to survive the relationship, but wants to build something inside it. So if you truly want connection, depth, intimacy, and growth, focus on creating emotional safety. Don't just tell her you love her. Show her that her emotions are safe with you, that her voice matters, that her thoughts are welcome, that she doesn't have to trade her freedom for love. Because the most powerful love isn't the one that traps or controls, it's the one that creates freedom. And emotional safety is where that freedom begins. Presence and consistency are more powerful than perfection. In relationships, especially romantic ones, many people fall into the trap of trying to be the perfect partner, always saying the right thing, doing the grand gestures, never making mistakes. But what most women truly value, what actually makes them feel secure, loved, and emotionally fulfilled, isn't flawless performance, it's dependable presence. It's the quiet, consistent reminder that you're there, that you care, and that you show up even when life isn't ideal. Perfection is an illusion. No one gets everything right all the time. There will be days when you're tired, when you misunderstand, when you forget something important, or when your words don't land the way you intended. Chasing perfection often creates pressure and inauthenticity. You try to impress rather than connect. You focus so much on what you should be doing that you stop simply being there. And over time, that starts to feel hollow. On the other hand, presence is real. It's grounded. It's being emotionally available, not just physically nearby. It's making eye contact during a conversation instead of scrolling through your phone. It's noticing her mood and asking how she really feels, not because it's on your checklist, but because you're truly interested. Presence says, I'm here with you, not just beside you. It's not about knowing all the right answers. It's about caring enough to stay in the moment when things get hard or uncomfortable. Consistency is just as powerful. When your words and actions align over time, it creates trust. When you show up, not once in a while, but regularly, when you check in, follow through, keep promises, even the small ones, it sends a message. You can rely on me. For a woman to truly feel emotionally safe and connected, she needs to know that what you do today won't vanish tomorrow. That the version of you she's learning to trust won't disappear when things get inconvenient. The most lasting love stories aren't written in grand dramatic chapters. They're written in the everyday moments, in being there when she's had a rough day, in remembering how she takes her coffee, in texting back when you say you will, in supporting her dreams, not just when they sound exciting, but even when they take time, sacrifice, and patience. These simple, consistent actions carry more weight than 1,000 perfect lines or occasional over-the-top gestures. They say, I'm not going anywhere. Women are highly intuitive when it comes to emotional patterns. They notice when you're attentive one day and distant the next. They feel it when your presence is inconsistent, when you show up only when you want something, or when everything's going well. Inconsistency creates doubt. It teaches her to second guess your words, to brace herself for withdrawal, and to hold back emotionally. But when you're consistent, when your love doesn't change with the weather, she feels safe enough to bring her full self into the relationship. Presence and consistency also means showing up during the hard moments, not just being around when everything is light and easy, but staying close when she's upset, anxious, or unsure. It's about being emotionally strong enough to sit with her pain without trying to fix or dismiss it. It's asking, how can I support you, instead of why are you still upset? It's holding space, not offering solutions unless she asks. That kind of presence is powerful. It says, I accept you even in your mess. When you stop trying to be perfect, you become more approachable, more human, and that's what deepens emotional intimacy. Women don't want perfection, they want real. They want someone who's willing to grow, to admit when they're wrong, and to keep choosing the relationship day after day. They want someone who doesn't disappear at the first sign of discomfort or conflict. Consistency builds emotional safety, and presence deepens emotional connection. Together, they create a love that doesn't need to be dramatic to be meaningful. So if you're wondering what will make the woman in your life feel deeply loved and emotionally secure, remember this. It's not about saying everything right. It's not about getting a perfect score every day. It's about being there, being real, and being steady. Because in the long run, presence and consistency leave a far more lasting impact than fleeting moments of perfection ever could. Your presence should feel like calm, not chaos. In relationships, the energy you bring into someone's life matters just as much, if not more, than the words you say or the gifts you give. People don't just remember what you did. They remember how you made them feel. And for a woman to truly feel safe, emotionally open, and connected with you, your presence must feel like a refuge, not another storm she has to weather. Calm doesn't mean being emotionless or passive. It doesn't mean never raising your voice or always having the perfect words. Calm is an energy, a steadiness. It's the ability to bring peace instead of tension, especially in moments that would normally trigger conflict, fear, or emotional shutdown. When your presence feels like calm, a woman feels like she can breathe around you. She doesn't feel like she has to brace herself every time you enter the room or worry about the mood you're in. She feels grounded. And that grounding is what allows love to grow deeper over time. Chaos, on the other hand, doesn't always come in the form of yelling or dramatic behavior. Sometimes chaos is unpredictability. It's emotional inconsistency. It's sending mixed signals, creating confusion, or being someone who's impossible to read. It's reacting instead of responding, disappearing instead of communicating, or using silence as punishment. It's having to walk on eggshells because she doesn't know which version of you she's going to get. And when a woman experiences that kind of chaos consistently, she starts to retreat emotionally. She might stay physically, but she'll start holding back her thoughts, her affection, her trust, not because she doesn't care, but because she's protecting herself. When you bring calm into a relationship, you become someone she can lean on, not someone she has to recover from. You become a safe space in a world that already demands so much from her. You become someone whose energy says, I've got you, even when she's not at her best. That calm is not just comforting, it's transformative. It allows her to let her guard down, to express freely, and to stop performing. She doesn't have to be on around you, she can just be. And that kind of freedom is where real love begins to unfold. Being a calm presence doesn't mean you don't have flaws or bad days. It means you're aware of your impact. It means you take responsibility for how you show up. You learn to regulate your own emotions so you don't make her feel like she has to manage them for you. You communicate clearly and consistently. You don't punish with silence, use sarcasm as a weapon, or lash out when things don't go your way. You speak when something is wrong, but you do so with care, not as a way to dominate, but as a way to connect. A woman remembers how safe she feels with you, whether she can cry and not be called dramatic, whether she can express herself and not be dismissed, whether she can share a mistake and not be shamed. And the safety that calm brings doesn't just create peace, it deepens intimacy. She trusts you more, she shares more, she gives more of herself because she knows she won't be met with chaos, confusion, or coldness. This doesn't mean everything in the relationship will always be easy or conflict-free, but calm doesn't mean avoiding tension. It means handling it differently. It means approaching disagreement with curiosity instead of attack. It means staying emotionally present when things are uncomfortable, rather than shutting down or exploding. It's the ability to say, let's figure this out together, instead of, you're the problem. That approach changes everything. Your presence should feel like a steady hand, not a ticking clock, like a deep breath, not a gasp for air. The more calm you bring, the more open and secure the connection becomes. Because in the end, love doesn't need chaos to prove it's passionate. It needs calm to prove it's real. And when a woman feels that, truly feels it, she stops questioning, stops doubting, and starts building something lasting with you. Because your presence isn't just something she tolerates, it's something she cherishes. This feeling allows a woman to feel safe within herself, and that is one of the most profound gifts anyone can offer. When a woman experiences this kind of emotional safety, it goes beyond just feeling secure in a relationship. It reaches into the core of her being and nurtures her sense of self. It is the foundation for confidence, authenticity, and inner peace. Without this feeling, a woman can often feel fragmented, unsure, or constantly second-guessing her worth. But when she has it, she carries a quiet strength that radiates from within, and nothing external can easily shake it. Feeling safe within herself means she no longer needs to hide parts of who she is to be accepted. She can show up fully, her quirks, her fears, her dreams, without fear of judgment or rejection. That freedom is life-changing. For many women, life has taught them to adapt, to shrink, or to mute parts of themselves to avoid conflict or disappointment. It's a survival mechanism that over time chips away at their authenticity. But when she feels truly safe, she begins to reclaim those lost parts. She can speak her truth without the weight of anxiety, and she can stand in her own light without feeling the need to dim it for others. This feeling creates a stable internal environment where she trusts her own voice and choices. It means she can make decisions not out of fear or obligation, but from a place of clarity and self-respect. She becomes less dependent on external validation because her worth is no longer tied to others' opinions or reactions. Instead, she carries a sense of belonging within herself, a rootedness that isn't easily swayed by criticism or comparison. When a woman feels safe within herself, her relationships transform too. She stops seeking constant reassurance or approval from others because she has learned to validate herself. This shift means she can enter relationships as a whole person, not someone who needs to be completed or fixed. She offers love and connection freely, not out of desperation, but from abundance. And this kind of presence is magnetic. It invites healthier, more balanced connections where mutual respect and understanding flourish. Feeling safe within herself also means she can face life's challenges with resilience. When her foundation is solid, she doesn't crumble in the face of adversity or uncertainty. She knows who she is, and even when things go wrong, she can return to that sense of safety inside. This resilience isn't about being unbreakable or emotionless. It's about having a place to come back to, a refuge within herself that remains steady no matter what external storms arise. This internal safety is cultivated over time, often through consistent experiences of acceptance, empathy, and respect from others, but it also requires her own willingness to nurture herself, to practice self-compassion, to set boundaries, and to honor her needs. When she learns to do this, the feeling of safety grows stronger, creating a positive cycle where her internal peace fuels healthier relationships, and those relationships, in turn, reinforce her sense of safety. Importantly, this feeling allows her to be vulnerable without fear. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but it is actually the gateway to deep connection and growth. When she feels safe within herself, she can take emotional risks because she trusts that she will not be destroyed or diminished by exposing her true self. She knows that even if she makes mistakes or experiences pain, she has the strength to recover and continue growing. This feeling also frees her from the need to control everything around her. When safety comes from within, she can let go of excessive worry, anxiety, or attempts to micromanage situations or people. She learns to trust life, trust others, and most importantly, trust herself. This trust opens her up to joy, spontaneity, and deeper intimacy because she isn't guarded or defensive. She's open and receptive. When a woman feels safe within herself, she naturally exudes a calm confidence that others notice and respect. It's a quiet power that doesn't demand attention but naturally draws people in. She stands firm in her values and boundaries without being rigid or inflexible. She approaches relationships from a place of mutual respect rather than neediness or fear. This presence changes the dynamics of how she interacts with others, fostering healthier communication, deeper empathy, and more meaningful connection. This feeling safe within herself, is the foundation for a fulfilled, authentic life. It is the soil from which self-love, healthy relationships, and emotional well-being grow. It allows her to be whole, to be free, and to live boldly without fear of losing herself. When a woman experiences this, she not only transforms her own life, but also inspires those around her to seek the same kind of freedom and peace. Offering a woman this feeling is one of the most profound ways to honor her. It's not about grand gestures or perfect words. It's about creating a space through presence, respect, empathy, and consistency where she can come home to herself every single day. And in that space, she blossoms. To wrap it all up, the feelings we create in a woman, emotional safety, understanding, calm presence, and consistent care, are what truly build deep, lasting connections. When she feels safe within herself and with you, she can be her authentic self, free to love, grow, and trust. It's not perfection that draws her closer, but your steady presence and genuine commitment. By showing up with empathy and care, you give her the freedom to thrive. And together, you create a relationship built on respect, trust, and real intimacy. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and reflect on these truths. I wish you all the best as you bring these ideas to life in your own relationships. Good luck on your journey to creating deeper, more meaningful connections. You've got what it takes.